Hello, brothers. My name is Doug Draper. I'm a 1992 graduate from the University of Kansas, and I'd like to welcome you to On the Banks. On the Banks is the only fraternity podcast where we meet brothers, share stories, and embrace the shared values of Phi Gamma Delta. Today, we have a wonderful discussion. I'm excited to bring on an undergraduate brother at the Sigma Tau chapter. And we're going to really get into philanthropy today and talk about kind of a philanthropic mindset, which Sigma Tau has embraced literally for decades. It's been terrific. So, philanthropy and social service. Technically, the definition is kind of a form of altruism that consists of private initiatives for the public good and focusing on the quality of life. It's also one of the 5 values of our fraternity, and it is certainly a mindset of the Sigma Tau chapter. So, Mick, before we jump in, I want to make sure everybody knows a couple things. So, Sigma Tau, got a couple of congratulations for you, was the Cheney Cup winner for this year, the best overall chapter in the fraternity. That's quite an honor, so congratulations. In addition to that, you were the top honor for the Baker Cup. You were the 2021 Baker Cup Award winner. And this is awarded annually to the chapter which most effectively focuses attention upon religious, ethical, and social service activities in its daily conduct. And Mick, the last thing I'll say before we jump in is the operative word in that statement is daily, because daily defines a mindset, and that's certainly what the Sigma Tau chapter has as it's related to philanthropy. So, Mick, thank you so much for being here today, man. It's good to connect.
Doug, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're at the end of your college career because you're a 2023 graduate, but it had to start somewhere, which was joining the Sigma Tau fraternity and Phi Gamma Delta. So let our audience talk to us about yourself, like your hometown, major, kind of why you selected Washington, and then how Fiji became part of your life in your college journey.
Well, like Doug said, I'm Mick Larsen, a senior this year graduating. I'm from Bellevue, Washington, so just right across 520 Bridge from the University of Washington campus, majoring in political science, and then with a focus in the sales professional program through the business school here. And I got connected to Fiji through my parents. Both of them came to UW, and my mom was a Theta here. So she had some great friendships she made with some of the Fijis here. And I was lucky enough to meet some individuals my senior year. I had some really good talks with them, just kind of some fellowship opportunities, going out to get coffee, some food. And you know what? They offered me a spot, and I couldn't turn it down. I saw what the individuals, they kind of explained how they grew and how just, huge this place was for them and their growth as a man. So, so humbled and blessed to be here.
Great. Thanks for sharing the story. So let's get into to our topics here. When you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago when we were getting this show set up, there was 2 things that you made mention of which really struck me, which was really kind of unique perspective in the sense that social services and philanthropy are 2 different words, and they're 2 different approaches to how we support and have that outreach. So talk about, let's just start there. Social service as one word, philanthropy is the other. Talk about the differences of those 2 statements and how Sigma Tau approaches.
I think the biggest difference between those 2 is kind of in a timeline fashion. Social service is something you can do every day. It's a mindset. It's something you can do when you wake up, and putting others before yourself. While philanthropy, still a great thing, is more of an event. It's more of a single thing taking place. You can have a philanthropy event, do something to raise money, build awareness. But I think social service is that aspect of really doing it every day.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a couple of examples? That was an excellent explanation of the 2, but I know that the mindset that we have there in Washington is unparalleled. So give us some examples so our listeners can understand when you say social service and then philanthropy.
Yeah, of course. So social service, we have the opportunity of doing weekly volunteer hours at Roots Homeless Shelter. Seattle has become an interesting place where there's a lot of homelessness, drug addiction. It can be kind of a chaotic scene, especially where we're at, located in the University District. Mm-hmm. And so the brothers here really wanted to take upon ourselves to be someone that could lend a hand up to these individuals that maybe just were dealt the wrong hand, just unfortunate events that arose within their lives. So this consists of going to Roots Homeless Shelter at least 2 to 3 times a week. Hours are listed within a group chat, and guys can sign up. It's just about 2 or 3 blocks away. It's painting new rooms for them. It's helping coordinate clothes drives, even communicating with these individuals that are living on the streets. So that's what we take as social services, being able to do that at least 2 or 3 times a week, just so we can help be a leader and be someone that's trying to improve the community as a whole. And then in terms of philanthropy, this could be something like Fred Hutch, like we're doing this year, where it's overall just raising money for Fred Hutch cancer research, and then throwing a couple events here and there to help raise money, either contacting family members, alumni, graduate brothers, or other individuals within the community that know what Fiji is about. So those are kind of 2 of the main examples I can think of.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. So the philanthropy aspect of it, right? I know a lot of the chapters out there and the brothers, even our graduates that are listening, kind of grew up with the philanthropy aspect of it. But when you're talking about the social service, that's definitely a mindset. There were a couple of terms that you'd mentioned when we were talking. Help a man below and give a hand up were 2 of the things. And really, I want to ask you about how does a chapter embrace that? Because it's easy to say, well, it's not easy because you got to plan the event, but to say, hey, here's our spring philanthropic event. It's a whole nother ball of wax to say we're going to contribute 2 or 3 times a week on a social service type of thing. So talk about how does the chapter embrace that? And then the 2 terms that you use would give a hand up and help the man below. Talk about those terms and how you have that chapter embrace.
So I think it really starts building that culture internally. It can be kind of hard to just say, hey, we're just going to throw these shifts out. We need guys to sign up. I think building that culture and building that mindset within the house, Sigma Tau, is what's been the biggest thing for us. So I remember as a freshman looking up to juniors and seniors, guys that really had their life put together and were really didn't just keep to themselves, but like it started with helping me pick classes or helping others finish their homework, or just certain things, like just building that culture within of it's not just all about you. And I think from then on out, it's always been like it's just something that we've internally built here within the house. And I know that I didn't want to be a guy that, as I moved up into an upperclassman role where I was looked at as a leader, to be that person that kind of just shunned that away and said, no, like I'm just going to do my own thing, because it's not always all about you. There's every decision you make, all your behavior affects others. And so that's something that we really emphasize here, is that you help those other people that are, like you said, like down below you, give that man a hand up, bring him up to you. And I think us being in such a blessed place, and a place of where there is that selfless mindset, it really reflects in the social service and guys being like, you know what, I should do this because it's the right thing to do, and it's going to help uplift my community. And if we can start internally as a house and then kind of bloom out, branch out, that's how you're going to get social service done.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And the one thing, just in this day and age, Mick, with everything, is the one thing that didn't happen whenever you talked about that was silos and pledge classes. And obviously they're important. I love my pledge brothers and my pledge class from my era, but what you just described was not individual silos. It was a collective as a house. And I think that's really important as we kind of go into the next, as we move forward with the fraternity, having that perspective of we are collectively together. It doesn't matter if you're freshman, junior, sophomore, or senior, and that whole concept of give a hand up really emphasizes that. So eliminating the silos of classes, I think, has really helped, from what you're telling me, with the chapter coming together as a collective, not silos. So talk about the home court. I know there were 3 things that you spoke about earlier. We got the home court, the Roots Homeless Shelter. We kind of spoke about what that is. And then the Fred Hutch, Hutch. So let's take the 2, Fred Hutch and the home court. Why don't you talk about what those entities are all about?
So for philanthropy, it's a major project that we do every year. And so last year, as the pandemic was really hitting hard, we decided to work with Home Court, which is run by our Purple Legionnaire, Pat Scott. And Home Court is a location where they run kids camps, they run after school programs, that they also help out with the regional team for the Special Olympics. And it's really an opportunity for guys to maybe underprivileged or people within lower socioeconomic statuses. They can go and play basketball, work together, have camaraderie and fellowship. And it's a really cool opportunity that Pat runs. It's a nonprofit. And then this year doing Fred Hutch cancer research. But in terms of Fred Hutch and really connecting with Pat, who, has just been absolutely monumental in building that culture here, it was an opportunity for us to raise money for him. And within doing that, it relieved a lot of that pressure that the pandemic, I know, hit a lot of businesses, a lot of nonprofits, because revenue just wasn't being generated as much. So giving them that relief, that financial relief for them, he told me was really just huge for them during such a difficult time and such unprecedented times. And so it was just, on top of that, I know there's been some really cool stories that come out of it. Pat had the opportunity of sending me a video and some photos of our money going towards buying new jerseys for the Special Olympics team, and just seeing the pure joy on these individuals' faces, just some dropping to their knees and crying, and just they don't know how to react to getting these new jerseys because maybe it wasn't expected, especially during such a tough time. But knowing that what you're doing and seeing that tangible evidence that the social service and that philanthropy is actually working and it's doing something for good is, I'll tell you what, it put a lot of smiles on guys' faces here at the house. So that was huge.
Yeah. So again, 3 specific philanthropic events that we just spoke about. So how does the chapter decide on major projects, right? So, hey, we want to do something different for next academic year, and we want to branch out and help others. How would the chapter get together to figure out what is the major project that we're going to work on?
So it's always a couple of different nonprofits or just things guys want to really attack in terms of a philanthropy mindset. Those are decided upon, and then it's pretty much just a democracy in which we vote. But the way in which things are chosen, it really has to, I think it means a lot when it has a deep-rooted passion within yourself. And these guys feel like, some individuals that I know personally have been affected by this, and kind of putting that emotional aspect into it really pushes guys to do as much as they can. I know with Fred Hutch, cancer touches the lives of a lot of individuals here, and not only here, but throughout the entire world. So picking something like that where guys can see the destruction it has within families and coworkers and whatever relationship, that really struck a chord within a lot of the guys here at Sigma Tau, and just pushing that and being able to do our due diligence and raise money, set up events. It's been just really cool, and it's can be really moving to see. So I think to really answer your question, it's voted on. There's a couple events chosen every year, but usually the ones chosen have that deep-rooted aspect within themselves.
Yeah. In some of the other episodes of this series of On the Banks and speaking to other undergraduates, I think the real impactful events have been the personal connection, like you have with Home Court and your Purple Legionnaire, and I think that's a common thread when you talk about seeing faces and how you're impacting individuals. The money is important, but the individual touch is more so, to be frank with you, and having that personal connection with the chapter, whether it's through a graduate or a personal brother's experience or something. I think that's spot on. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool to see, like you said, having that passion is what is really going to drive people to put others before themselves and do something that's going to benefit a bunch of communities.
Yeah, cool. So let me ask you this: so you're on 3.5 years, right? You're almost out of there, starting your next journey in life. talk to the audience and our brothers out there a little bit about your proudest accomplishments related to either some of the service projects that you've been involved with, or even a specific philanthropic event. So you personally, Mick, this is you, my man. Tell me something that's impacted you in your tenure there at the chapter house.
In terms of philanthropy, we had a 5K my freshman year, and being able to be a volunteer at that and like have guys' parents running, and I was handing out water, and just being there to see like so many people I knew trying to help this cause was really impactful. And I got to, it's me and another one of my really good buddies in my class just sitting there and handing out water, kind of cheering everyone on, and being a part of the setup and just seeing what it did for the community was super impactful to me. And on top of that, just volunteering at Roots, having the individual conversations with some of these people that are really affected by the homelessness crisis here in Seattle. And just, this is, an individual that I would rarely interact with if I wasn't here at the house, here at Sigma Tau, and being able to hear some of these stories. And there's kind of this stigma around that, they're being lazy, they're just living on the streets, but some of these people have really been dealt a really, really tough hand. And it's not only humbling and makes you realize how blessed I was to have a safe place to grow up, and a lot of the individuals here, but just sharing those stories and being like, oh my goodness, like, you know what, I'm really blessed to be here. And I think having those conversations was really hard, and there'd be times where I'd come back and I'd be like, oh my goodness, just how can one survive what they're going through? And it really gave me a new perspective on what's going on here. So I think volunteering and helping out with a 5K that had to do with Fred Hutch, as well as having those individual conversations at Roots Homeless Shelter with some of those individuals affected by homelessness, were some of my, I don't know if I would say greatest accomplishments, but some things that I really reflect on later in life and say I learned a lot.
Yeah, that's great. And the one of the mottos with the fraternity is, not for college days alone. So I think what's transpired, again, from talking to some of the other undergraduates during this series of On the Banks, is that they may not have known about philanthropy. They may not have understood the impact that one individual can have on another. But learning that through the events within the fraternity, whether it's Sigma Tau, Wabash, or whatever it may be, sets a precedent and an expectation of themselves as they move on outside of their undergraduate experience to continue to get involved with social service and philanthropy. So I'm really glad that you made mention of that. Mick, I want to leave with your advice, right? You're on the tail end of your undergraduate career. And if you had to give some advice, right, there's chapters out there that are like, we want to do something, the story, and we don't have a Roots homeless shelter, or we don't have a home court or a Fred Hutch. What advice would you give the undergraduates so they can develop some of these traditions, or at least get into the philanthropic mindset that's been established up there at Sigma Tau?
I think I've kind of touched on it already, but it starts within. I think some of the negative light that's been shined on the fraternal system as a whole has been this mindset of like a hierarchy within fraternities, where the upperclassmen look down on the underclassmen. And I think it really starts with, you're all in this place together. It's its own community within its own Greek system, within its own college. Like, you have to be able to reach out to these younger guys, even if they're 2 or 3 years below you. Because I remember being a younger guy, and the seniors and juniors that said, hey, you want to come in my room, play video games, or do you want to go shoot some hoops with these other guys? Just to see those guys when I was a younger individual, being like, man, that guy is so nice. He really cares about me being here. And it starts within. If you want to build that social service, philanthropy mindset, you have to be able to put others before yourself and realize like they were once in your shoes in a new scenario, new to college, new to everything that's going on, like not at mom and dad's house anymore. So, and I trust you, those younger individuals are going to know your name for the rest of your life, because they said, this guy cared about me being here. And to build that culture internally, that like I know having your own class is, there's a lot of pride with that, and you love those brothers because you have a lot of shared experiences, but you only have 4 years at this great place at Sigma Tau, and you don't want to waste it with a year where you're being, frankly, a jerk to these younger individuals. So if you want to build that mindset and then blossom out to your community and really start helping out, start it internally and build that culture and put those others before yourselves, because you know what, you do have a lot in common. You're going to the same university, you may be taking a lot of the same classes, you might be having the same struggles, whether it's with family, friends, whatever. So I think if you want to build that mindset, grow it internally, and then once that starts and you can really see it, it's only going to blossom from there. And these guys are going to come up with ideas of, you know what, this portion of our community is being affected. What can we do? Because we started it within, and now everyone has this mindset of helping the other person, building relationships with other people that, you know, you probably wouldn't have built a relationship in the first place if that philanthropy mindset wasn't established.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're wise beyond your years, Mick. I think that's excellent perspective. You know, I was just, while you were talking just now, I was thinking that, you know, when you come in as an 18-year-old, regardless of chapter, regardless Greek or not, the perceived age difference between a freshman in college and a senior in college might as well be 20 years, right? It seems like
Yeah.
it's so far apart. And in reality, there's a lot of commonalities in there. And so the things you do as a senior, your outward actions, the way you engage with the other brothers is so impactful. And I think that's great that you had brought that up. And I appreciate that perspective. So, Mick,
Thank
I
you.
want to say one more time, congratulations on winning the 2021 Cheney Cup. That is an amazing accomplishment. And speaking specifically to our topic today, the Baker Cup as well, and separating social service from philanthropy and understanding the difference and how they are both equally important. So, Mick, thanks again for joining us today. I really appreciate that.
Doug, thank you. And I just want to say I really appreciate the work you're doing with this On the Banks podcast and shining positive light on the not only Phi Gam Delta, but as a fraternal system as a whole. So I know all the brothers really appreciate you.
Great. Thanks for that. You got $20 in the mail coming to you. So anyway, and I also want to thank all of our listeners and our brothers for joining us today on the Banks. We look forward to seeing you again next time. We're going to meet new brothers. We're going to share stories and share the values of our fraternity. So until next time, mighty proud to be a Fiji.